Hello, beautiful souls. It's Kat from Elevate, my channel where we talk about recovering from toxic relationships and regaining self-love and self-esteem. Today's topic is going to be about self-love because a lot of people have been asking for that, as I've mentioned before, and it's going to be about boundaries. So if you are wondering how to love yourself more or love yourself better, boundaries are one of those ways. And we hear a lot of talk about boundaries. People are a little confused, I think, about boundaries. And I just want to break it all down for you. So boundaries are something that protects you from other people. Like that's the definition and what we would think about boundaries. Um, it's not something you make someone else do. It's not something you can control by making someone else change their actions or change their behavior. So it's not about really controlling other people or forcing them to do something. However, in effect, it's about you possibly asking someone to do something differently, or maybe asking someone not to do something that you find disrespectful or abusive. But whether or not they decide to do that doesn't really change your boundary, and it shouldn't change your boundary. So that's something I think people get a little stuck on. It's like this idea like, well, I'm having a boundary and I'm asking my partner to do X, but they're not doing it. So that's okay. You have to accept that that person is not willing to make that change and for whatever reason, and you still have to maintain your boundary, which is that this is not okay with me. So boundaries are about deciding what's not okay for you, what's not acceptable for you, what you find disrespectful, maybe abusive. It's just not something that you're willing to have in your life as a healthy individual emotionally. And then saying this is not okay with me to the other person who may be doing that thing. And whether or not they decide to change, you still maintain the boundary. So for instance, if they say I'm not going to change, or they say, a lot of times people in these situations or these type of toxic people will say, yes, I'm so sorry, I'm going to change, and they don't. So that brings you to the next step, which is what do you do about it? So having self-love is having boundaries, and those boundaries stay the same regardless of what anyone else is doing. So you're essentially in charge of protecting yourself, and you've got to make the decisions and you've got to call the shots on what's acceptable and what's not. So if this person says, no, I won't change, or they say, yeah, I'll change, but they actually don't change, it's up to you then to make the decision. What am I going to do about it? I have to protect myself. I have to love myself. How will I still maintain this boundary when this person's telling me they won't change or they're not changing? And a lot of the times in toxic situations, this type of dynamic and this type of interaction goes on over and over again. A lot of times people in this situation are dealing with in abusive relationships or dealing with a toxic person, and it's about this replay. It's over and over again. We may be trying to get the person to change. We may be trying to help the person to grow, and we feel like we need to fix the person. So this all kind of plays into codependency, and that's a whole separate topic. But this dynamic will replay over and over again, where you may try to enforce a boundary and the person doesn't change, and then you try again, and then you try again. Unfortunately, this is something that is just going to have you going around and around constantly, and I'm sure plenty of you have done this and have experienced this if you're listening to my channel. So at the end of the day, loving yourself means leaving that situation at the point where you realize this is not going to change. I'm not okay with this. Let's say the person has cheated on you or they're talking to an ex. So you have laid down a boundary and said, I don't feel comfortable with you talking with your ex. It's, or maybe, that's just how you are. In relationships, you just don't feel comfortable with someone talking to an ex. I'm not saying whether that's right or wrong for everybody, but for you, that's how you feel. And that's valid. Like if you don't like that, then you need to find someone who's okay with that, a partner who's okay with that. So let's say this person has cheated on you, maybe cheated on you with that ex, and now they're talking to that ex. So I think many people would feel uncomfortable with that. And they would say, I don't feel comfortable with you talking to the ex that you cheated on me with. And you need to stop talking to that person, please, because it's really hurting me. That partner of yours can decide whether to do so or not to do so. And you'll probably have this happen over and over again. You'll get frustrated. Like, why does he say that he's going to stop talking to her, but then he doesn't? You have to be the one at the end of the day to say, I am not happy with this scenario. I am not feeling loved. I am not feeling respected. I am not feeling like he's being honest. So I need to leave this situation. I have no option other than to leave. And, you know, that's not easy for anybody, right? Like when you care about someone, it's very hard to do that. But if someone is not respecting your boundary, they don't respect you. That's the issue. And I think we can get so hung up on really wanting to make something work and really caring about someone and wanting things to work out. And we can't understand why they don't work out, because if the other person would just do XYZ, things would work out. But that person doesn't want to do that and they don't see it the way you do. So your only option to love yourself is to be true to yourself, be true to your own feelings, and leave. You need to find someone you're more compatible with, someone who will respect you, someone who, it could even be something so small, like as if someone does something that's just like very disrespectful, but they don't maybe even realize it. Some people that are not toxic might do things and they don't even realize it. And someone who really cares about you and wants to make the relationship work will say, okay, I won't do that anymore if it really bothers you. Like, let's say someone does something small, like they always leave their laundry like in the middle of the hallway. Just random example. And you say, like, can you please not do that? Oh, it just really bothers me all the time to see your laundry in the middle of the hallway. I'm almost tripping over it. Whatever it is. Somebody who cares about you is going to want to fix that. They're going to want to remedy that. They're going to want to have harmony with you, and that's like a really benign example, but it's just this idea of like your partners, you're a team, you work together. That's what's healthy. So when you have someone that's not healthy, someone toxic who's playing games, who's, probably doing all sorts of manipulative tactics, you really have to maintain your boundaries. But a lot of the protection and the boundaries that you have on yourself are up to you to enforce. It's not about changing someone else, because you're not going to change someone else. Only person that you can control is yourself, right? And I think we've known that. And I think, it's good to say that over and over again, though. The only person you can change is yourself. So you can change your reaction to people, but no matter what you do, even if you try to get someone to understand a situation and to change, they may never see what you're seeing in this situation, especially with a toxic person. They have their own perceptions. A lot of the times their perceptions are a fantasy world. They're not real. And, that's the issue, is you're seeing things maybe more logically and they're seeing it from a perspective that is not logical. So a lot of the times what we do is something that is called protest behavior. So we try to enforce a boundary with this person that we're in a relationship with, and we say like, like, I don't want you to talk to the ex-girlfriend, let's say, for an example. And we get really upset about it. We're like, emotional. We may be passionately upset. It's something that's very emotional, and we're protesting. But instead of doing that, what we need to do is just make a decision. Like, we can't, no matter how upset you get, no matter how distraught you are. No, it doesn't matter. Like, this person is not going to do what you want them to do. You've probably been through this before with them. And so essentially you're wasting your time, but you don't want to feel like you're wasting your time. A lot of times, women I've talked to who are in these situations with abusive people, they really want to believe that this person, this partner that they're with, is actually going to change. Like, they keep feeling like over and over again, over and over again. They're like, I just needed to explain to him, and I brought it to his attention, and all these kind of things. But the thing is, these people are not going to change. So at a certain point, you have to call it. At a certain point, you've been wasting maybe years of your life. I know people who have, and they keep wanting to feel like if they just explain things, or if they just could get through to that person, that they could understand that they're hurting them, or that they're, what they're doing, and maybe get an apology, or maybe get that person to have some accountability. And I'm guilty of this too. But unfortunately, this person is not going to have accountability. This person is not going to see the light. This person is not going to apologize, probably. And if they do, it's probably not a genuine apology, because they really just don't see, a lot of the time, I think, what they're doing. They may or may not. And at any point, though, it doesn't really matter whether they see what they're doing or not. What matters is that you're getting hurt, that you're being abused, and what's happening to you is not acceptable to you. Whatever it is, whatever boundary you're laying out, for you, it's not okay. Boundaries are huge of a self-love, because first of all, you have to identify your boundaries. So you need to know what your boundaries are. And the second part of it is enforcing those boundaries despite what other people are doing. So whether people agree or people don't agree. So maybe your partner doesn't agree. Doesn't matter, because that's your boundary. If you feel that way, it's valid, and you need to enforce that boundary. If you're watching my channel, most likely you're in a scenario where you've been codependent, where you've been letting things slide, where you've been an enabler, right? Like, a lot of people who deal with these toxic people, like cluster B, the narcissists, borderlines, mentally ill, people with mental illness, or just generally abusive partners, the partner of those people is going to be most likely falling into a codependent role, an enabler type of role. So you've been allowing things to happen, and that part's on you. That's the hard piece to say. Like, what's on me? It's you not enforcing your boundaries. It's you enabling the person, because yeah, you've probably demanded respect a million times. Like, we all do that with these abusive people, but because they're abusive, they just don't care. And so they'll give you a little bit of talk that says they're sorry, or something like that. But at the end of the day, they don't change. They don't know or don't want to be respectful. They don't want to treat you the way that you deserve to be treated as a human being. And they are demoralizing. So you have to say, okay, this person doesn't want to do what I need them to do for me to feel like my boundaries being respected. So what do I do? What do I do now? And essentially, you have to most likely leave the scenario, leave the situation. And toxic people don't like when you bring up these things. Like, if you'll notice, it will cause a conflict. Anytime you demand respect, I just wanted to do this video today, a little short video about boundaries and self-love, because it's a big piece of self-love. It's holding strong to your own boundaries and trusting yourself to have valid feelings and have those feelings be respected by others, and also to be respected and honored by yourself. I think honoring your own feelings as being valid and honoring those boundaries that ensue, that's an important part of self-love. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and press the bell icon. And of course, like this video. It always helps with the YouTube algorithm if you like my videos, and I really appreciate that. Any comments, please leave them below. I love to hear what you have to say, and I will try to reply. And if you have any requests for videos, any video topics, I'm open to doing videos. You can also comment below if you have some ideas and you want some videos about certain things.